Service comes with a lot of music. We're going to have a music overload today. That song was inspired by a book called The Cellist of Sarajevo by Stephen Galloway. And during the civil war in Bosnia, there was a bombing in a marketplace, and a man named Vedran Smailovic honored the victims by playing cello in the town square. He played one day for each victim. Under the threat of bombs and snipers, he resisted, he acted, he was heard, peacefully and beautifully heard. He brought international attention there. I want to be that kind of an activist, but I'm angry. And that keeps getting in my way. Lately, it seems everyone I know is angry. There's just an undercurrent of anger running through all of us. Aidan and I started to go to postcard writing parties. And it was suggested that in order to be most effective in writing to our representatives, that we write just 2 or 3 sentences. That we state a position on an issue and our reason for our position. Clear, concise. And I thought, yes, in the confines of a postcard, I could perhaps contain my anger. I write lyrics for a living. I pare down words every day. So this was something that was kind of easy for me. In fact, sometimes I even rhymed. You can pass laws that make us all better. Equal access to health care. We're all in this together. But I looked to my left, I looked to my right, and I saw postcards thick with text. All capitals, underlined exclamation points. We're angry. And you know, maybe anger is good for a while. It inspires us to write postcards and make phone calls, to march and protest. But eventually that anger just becomes exhausting. The Buddha is credited with saying that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else, but still you are the one who gets burned. And I understand that in my mind, my logical mind. But I was having a little trouble getting that into my heart, my emotional heart. And then I read something by Maya Angelou, and she said, bitterness is like a cancer. It eats upon the host. But anger is like fire. It can burn it all clean. I liked that. She helped me realize that it's okay to get good and angry. Figure out what makes us mad and why. But then, we have to get it all out and move on before we become bitter. Anger seems to have become kind of a habit these days, hasn't it? Behavioral scientists tell us that one of the best ways to break a habit is to replace it with a different and more effective habit. So I set about to do just that, and I created for myself a 100-day campaign in which I posted on social media some ideas for action and alleviating our anger, but that would also benefit us. I said things like, if you are concerned about improving health care, you should write to your representatives. But you should also spend a few minutes each day meditating, because it's an easy, free thing you can do to improve your own health. I said, if you care about improving the environment, you should donate money, if you can, to good organizations. But you should also act by eating a little bit less meat, each week in your diet, because it's the single most effective thing one person can do to impact our natural resources. And that really made me feel good for a while. Friends responded by sharing their own things that they were doing for themselves and in their communities. And for a while, I felt like I was really getting somewhere.
People think, but sharing dinner and a drink
When we were writing our postcards, I was making my online posts, and I really thought I had won my battle over anger and channeled it into better work. Until one morning, Aidan and I were home, and we were sitting on the couch working on our second cup of coffee. I was reading the newspaper, and Aidan was reading a thing called Brain Pickings. It's a weekly blog that sort of brings together different writings on a common theme. And he turns to me and he says this: the for-profit prison industry needs to know how many beds that they will need in the future in order to plan their prisons. And they have developed an accurate predictive tool. They measure the illiteracy rate among 11-year-olds as a marker for how many beds they will need in 15 years. Yeah, that was my reaction too. I was angry. And then I was really angry. What kind of a person built their business on the backs of undereducated 11-year-olds? Who does that? I wanted to know their names. I wanted to know where they lived. I wanted to go to their houses and knock on their doors. I was enraged. So I remembered Maya Angelou, and I let it just rage on there in my living room. And I looked for the root cause of my anger. And once I found that cause, I was actually heartbroken rather than angry over this horrible research and this seeming inevitability of its findings. Heartbroken for these kids who could be saved by reading, and how reading isn't something they would have to endure, but rather something they would enjoy. Heartbroken as I realized they were already missing out on the adventures of reading. Because I love to read, and Aidan loves to read. We have an entire CD of songs inspired by books. And there it was. Suddenly, much to my surprise, I felt gratitude for the for-profit prison industry. These evil people planning their prisons, they had done research for me, and I was pretty sure it was accurate research. They had given us this gift. They identified a problem, they implied a solution. Let's get those kids to read. I can do that. I'm not powerless. But I wouldn't fight against those evil people, because that would just make me angry. Instead, what I would do is fight for those kids. Now, I'm not a parent, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a librarian. I'm actually quite unskilled to do any of this. I just write songs. But we'd written songs about books that inspired adults to want to start reading for pleasure again. So that morning, sitting on our couch, we launched a plan. We would read children's books, write songs inspired by those books. We'd create a program to bring that music into schools and libraries and after-school programs where literacy rates are low. We'd read a bit, we'd talk about a book, we'd play a song, and hopefully we'd get the kids excited about reading, get them to try. Once we got off the couch, we did something we'd never done before. We asked for help. We asked for a lot of help. We contacted elementary school teachers and librarians, friends and fans. They gave us suggestions and advice and resources and encouragements. Each one of them felt like their contributions were very small, but they couldn't contain their passion to help. And each of those contributions combined with the others in a very powerful way. 6 months after we got off the couch, we were standing in a library in Minnesota playing those songs for a group of kids. like a locomotive. My arms are strong, but they can't hold back the tide. But if I raise my hand and you raise your hand, together we'll be counted like the hammers in this hand. Raise your hand, sister, raise your hand, sister, raise your hand. I am not louder than the rolling thunder. I may speak, but I can't drown out the crowd. But if I raise my voice and you raise your voice, together we will be heard. We will sing above the noise. Raise your voice, sister. Raise your voice, sister. Raise your voice. Raise your hand, sister. Raise your hand, sister. Raise your hand. I am not Superman. I have no superpowers. I have a strong heart, love enough to share. And if I raise my child and you raise your child, in a single generation we set our differences aside. Raise your child, sister, raise your child, sister, raise your child. Raise your voice, sister, raise your voice, sister, raise your voice. Raise your hand, sister, raise your hand, sister, raise your hand. Raise your hand, sister, raise your hand, sister, raise your When I think about the prison industry, I still feel angry. But where my passion meets my anger, the passion always wins. It's the passion, not the anger, that really inspires me to act, to create something good, not just fight against something bad. I know that we will keep one 11-year-old from becoming a statistic. I know that sharing something I love is stronger and more enduring than any amount of anger I could feel. And I know this because 25 years after that bombing in Sarajevo, I'm still inspired by the cellist.